Good.
Go. Take it away, Jeff.
Good afternoon. This is Jeff Weinberg, president of Caregiver Champion, and I am delighted to be able to interview a dear friend and colleague and a member of Caregiver Champion, Janice Scarlett. We go back a long way, not as long as we look, but we go back a long way. I wanted to feature Jan because she does a very key role for Caregiver Champion, which is medical management. And one of the unique features of Caregiver Champion and medical management is we have a nurse who actually goes with people to the doctors and helps the family understand what the doctor has to say. She asks questions because even if the family member's there, they don't always know what questions to ask. And she oversees people's medicine to make sure they get it right instead of, taking the old medicine before they take the new medicine. As I don't know if I've said this, but over 60% of the people that we see now live out of town. In fact, I'm going to see someone this afternoon after this who contacted me for the very same reason. He lives out of town, and he came in because his mother had a fracture after a fall. So Jan is a great person in terms of her knowledge base. She's also very funny, and we also have a history not only of a work relationship, but we have a history of a family relationship. Jan's mother and my mother-in-law were in the nursing homes together, and unfortunately for both of them, they died of a broken heart, basically. And Jan would visit her mother every day, and my my wife, would visit her mother every day. And so they got to know each other very well as well. And my mother-in-law used to call Jan Dorothy. Was that what you called her?
Rosie. Rosie.
Rosie. Okay. So I want to introduce Jan, or Rosie, as the case may
Yes.
be, to all of you, and I'll turn it over to Rachel. But before Rachel asks you questions, my first question, which it wasn't on what I sent you, is what do you call me, Jan?
Oh, well, that might be censored, Jeff. You'll have to speak to that yourself.
Oh no, you gotta it's okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
okay?
I'm on the
Okay,
edge of my seat.
Okay. I call Jeff a shit magnet.
I can vouch for that.
And why is that, Jan?
You just attracted, Jeff.
Why is
That's
it,
hilarious.
Jan?
Oh, well, because of some of the clientele we get involved with.
It's like if it's a hard person to deal with, or it's multi-complex, somehow they know to call Jeff.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
And then I know to
somebody
call
said
Jan.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll go beyond that. Go ahead, Rachel.
All right. So Jan, what made you want to become a nurse? Such an important job, and recently more talked about.
Right. Well, I think I have always wanted to be a nurse. It was a lot about helping people. Not a boring career for sure. I think it's good to help people promote their health and well-being and have good outcomes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Where have you worked before working with Jeff at Caregiver Champion?
Well, I started my career medical surgical nursing to intensive care, coronary care. Uh, Probably the biggest part of my career has been in home care, home health and hospice. A lot of different positions from staff nurse. I was home care IV team. I was office manager, clinical nurse liaison, marketer. So pretty varied aspects of nursing, but mostly in the home health field.
Hmm.
And I
And how
want
did,
to add to that is because she's an excellent nurse, a caring nurse. She's very well respected in the field,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been able to establish a tremendous reputation. And between her and me, we probably know everybody in the field.
Probably.
So she's a very good resource for
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
hmm, absolutely. And how did you guys connect, you and Jeff?
Well, I think from years back that we had a group called Life Options in Pittsburgh. I was still involved in home care and hospice liaison and marketing at that point. And I don't know, we just kind of came together. I've been with Jeff probably about 4 years now, I would say, you know.
What made you want
Actually,
to shift gears?
Judy connected us
Carla,
from, huh?
Carla.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
she
Because she was your
she
nurse before.
yeah, she actually was my nurse before.
Yeah, yeah,
But she was working full time and being in my helping me out as a nurse.
yeah.
So she said, "I got this really nice person that you're really going to like,
Yeah,
and she has more time for you than I
yeah,
do."
yeah,
Um, as soon
yeah,
as I met Jan, and I, as most people know, I don't say nice things about people unless I really meet them.
yeah,
But uh, for Jan, the first time I met her, I was like, "This is the woman I want
yeah,
to work with me. I love her
yep,
already."
yep. It's been a good connection.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. What do you do with Caregiver Champion? What type of work?
Well, a lot of what I do is go to physician appointments with clients that their families live out of state. And a lot of what that involves, like Jeff said previously, the clients don't know what to ask. They don't know what the doctor told them. They have no idea when their family says, "What did the doctor say?" They don't know. So actually, I take notes. I ask questions. I do the research to see, what it is that we need to know. I follow up with the family and the client afterwards. I do some medical management. We look at their meds, see how compliant they are, what their understanding is. And also we pull in outside agencies if need be.
Hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. I wish everybody could have someone go with them to their doctor's appointment so that they could
Mhm.
understand and get the most out of it. That's really a
It,
helpful
it does
service.
make a difference, Rachel. And usually after the doctor's appointment, within a couple days, if they have medication changes, I call them, see how they're doing. Do they need any help? And I think basically we have good outcomes.
Absolutely. If you
Yeah.
had to give a few tips to someone on how to make the most out of their doctor's appointment, what would you offer?
I would tell them to take notes with them, what to ask, because a lot of our clients, by the time they get there, they don't remember what their questions are. So a lot of times just write it down,
Right.
write the answers down or have them put it on your discharge papers so that when you get home, you don't forget what they told you.
Absolutely. It's a great
Yeah.
tip. Yeah. Um, what are some of the challenges you faced as a nurse in general and also the specific type of nursing?
I think the biggest challenge with this nursing position is gaining people's trust
Mm,
because they don't know us. You know, we're foreign to them. We come into their house. It takes a little bit of time to build a trustful relationship with them. But once you establish that, you know, they're pretty good. A lot of our clients, they'll call, they'll ask questions, they'll call an update on their physician's appointments once they get the grasp of what it is that we do. They're pretty good with being compliant.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, Jan, is that
Mhm.
no matter who uh, gets involved with Caregiver Champion, the first step has to be to gain their trust.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we all do that a little differently, but it clearly is our first step.
Mhm.
And it's pretty easy with Jan. It might not be as easy with me, but that's a different story. But Jan is just such a likable person
I see
that
that.
it's very easy to gain her trust. And and I think the step that we all take, whether it's Jan or myself or Sherry, is that we go that added step. So it's not a
Mhm.
matter of just going to the doctors and um, having review the meds and then that's it. I mean, she's following up to make sure that they understand it.
Mhm.
A few days later, she calls the family, and that follow up is so important.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
also then helps establish trust
Mhm.
because it's not just like, well, she went to the doctors with me and I won't hear from her again.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
matter of following up. And if it's one time or two times or three times, whatever it takes to make sure that
Mhm.
they've gotten on the right medication regime. But also it could be therapy and she's following up to make sure the
Mhm.
therapist comes in, things like that. And that's all part of the trust building uh,
Mhm.
relationship. And that was part of why when I first met her, it was like, my basic criteria for having people work with me is they gotta care.
Mm,
Mhm.
And if they don't care, it doesn't matter what they know.
yeah.
And Jan and I
Exactly.
and now Rachel know that if you're not a caring person, then you could publish books and it wouldn't matter because
Mhm.
it doesn't build that trust. And
Mhm.
people know that you care right away.
Absolutely.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think also the other thing is once we establish that relationship, they trust us to bring in outside sources, whether it be home health for physical therapy or medication management through an outside agency or just help in the home. I think they trust our decisions.
And that's very true. And part of that is that, in particular, Jan has worked with a lot of these people before in
Mhm.
other agencies. But the other thing that we do is that we vet agencies and home
Mhm.
care services and rehab services
Mhm.
so that we know that they're credible and they're going to do this. They're going to represent Caregiver Champion in
Mhm.
the same fashion.
Right.
So Jan's excellent, perfectly right in what she said.
Right. Very important. Yeah, I come from a family of nurses, so I've always had a soft spot for nurses. But I think recent events have given more of a spotlight
Mhm.
on just how much of heroes you guys really
Mhm.
are, and the lengths and the things that nurses do. I think a lot of people don't even really fully know all of the tasks
Yeah.
and the challenges. So how has nursing changed throughout the years, and what would you like people to know about the life of a nurse?
Well, I think it's changed. It's more demanding. I think there's less understanding, like you said, of what nurses actually do and how much is involved, in an 8 or 12 hour shift, and what nurses are ultimately responsible for. I think that has changed over the years. And with COVID, that has made a huge difference.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, well said.
Talk about that, Jan.
Well, I think the COVID management, and that's made it more difficult for everybody, in our position in hospitals, and particularly Jeff and I both know firsthand nursing home experiences. The elderly really did not die from COVID. They died, a lot of them, from loneliness. The particular facility our families were in, there was no visitation for months and months and months. It made it harder for the nurses to manage, harder for the nurses' aides, because there was no entertainment, there was no visitation, and I think that all brought on a higher stress level. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Jeff and I
Absolutely.
both saw that firsthand.
Yeah. I want to ask you both, since fortunately it feels like things are, picking up and
Mhm.
getting better in terms of COVID, but it is still around. So do you guys have any, advice to people on how to stay both mentally healthy and healthy and navigate having a loved one in a nursing home, throughout, the coming months and years, really?
Yeah, we know, Rachel, I have thought and always thought hand washing, that is probably one of the biggest things. It is more noticeable now, people do it. Prior to COVID, not so much. But
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it, just personal hygiene. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
If you're sick, don't go to visit people. If you have respiratory, wear a mask, just things like that. Personal hygiene, I would think, is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, you
I,
make a really good
that's,
point with the hand washing being kind of underrated.
Mhm.
I know my family that are nurses, their hands are so dry because they always
Yes.
wash their hands.
No skin on your hands.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What were you
the
gonna say,
other
Jeff?
thing with, and this sort of ties more into the caregiver, um, is that the caregiver has to have some kind of balance in their lives.
Mhm.
And again, that's where people like Jan come in. Even if you're working full time and you've got someone you're taking care of, having Jan go to the doctor's appointment instead of them having to take time off is really a big relief.
Mhm.
So the caregiver has to find some balance in their life.
Mhm.
And just as an added comment, uh, Caregiver Champion is starting the first Monday of each month a caregiver support group, and the support group is free and it's totally confidential because care the need for caregivers continues to grow. And even though there's an awareness that they have a lot of problems, companies and government or whatever haven't done much to help them. So that tie-in is great difficulty, and they do need to have some kind of relief for their stress. And we're hoping that the caregiver support group will be a little bit of added value to them. But
Absolutely.
going back to Jan's point, even with now, and the mask thing is still very controversial. People say, well, wear a mask, but they forget to say, wash your hands.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you can't minimize that.
Right.
And like Jan said, I mean, I worked in hospitals as well as Jan. Doctors would go in and out of rooms and they'd never wash their
Mhm.
hands. And it was like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so,
One thing I noticed with my outpatient physical therapy since my knee replacement, that is one thing they mandate. Before you go into that therapy room, you wash your hands. I said to the receptionist, that is a good idea. And she said, we're never letting that go, whether there's COVID or whether there's not. You wash
Yeah.
your hands before you go into the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. And the support group, Jeff, I was actually going to comment on that too. So every first Monday, people can join. It'll be on Zoom at 6:30 to 8:30. And if anybody here listening is interested, they can email Jeff at caregiverchampionadvocate.com to join the free support group. Jan, is there anything else that you want to share or add to the conversation, leave people with today?
Well, I would say, Rachel, this is a very fulfilling job. You know, sometimes it is a challenge, but mostly the end results and the outcomes are good with our clients.
Yeah, I love that. We need more good news and compassion and positive messages like that. I love that you left us on a positive note.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That's why I'm
Jeff,
so glad
else?
that I'm just saying I'm so glad that we took the opportunity to interview her because you know, she's such a vital part of Caregiver Champion, and with COVID in particular, and as our caseload increases to more people living out of town, and even in terms of corporate caregiving, I've always tried to stress that one of the advantages is, you know, they don't have to take time off for work. So, but I think she put the nail on the head, or the head on the nail, or whatever it is, by saying, ultimately, we may have hard clients and we may have some very difficult families, but it is very fulfilling. And, you know, people say to me, and I'm sure they say this to Jan, well, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, maybe they just want me to leave. I don't know. I always say, as long as I have my health, there's absolutely no reason to retire because I really love what I do. And I know Jan loves what she does. And it is very fulfilling.
I have to say, that's very inspiring to hear. That's I love when people love what they do, and I think then they do it better because they love it. So you guys are an inspiration. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for the work that you do, for the work that you both do, and for sharing. And anybody who's interested and, you know, could use the support, please reach out to us, caregiverchampionadvocate.com. And we have a Facebook page as well, support group starting up on Monday, April 4th. So we hope to see you guys, and thank you both.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jan.
Wash your hands, everybody.
Okay, one final thought, Rachel.
Wait.
Being a nurse, I saw this on Facebook, is like the mafia. You know too much, you can never get out.
Well said.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, where's she going with this?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I think we got to leave on that note. It's well said.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Okay,
Thank
see
you.
ya.